Obviously, the doctor had no idea what was coming. No one did. This enigmatic sentence opens The Virgin Suicides, a film that transcends its provocative title and immerses us in a world of emotional and psychological complexity. 5 sisters, an apparently perfect suburb, a tragedy that shook an entire community. Today, we will explore the depths of this Sofia Coppola cult classic and unravel the layers of meaning that make it so impactful and relevant to this day. Based on the acclaimed novel by Jeffrey Eugenides, The Virgin Suicides transports us to a 1970s American suburb. The story revolves around the 5 Lisbon sisters, Cecilia, Lux, Bonnie, Mary, and Therese. At first glance, they seem to lead a normal life under the guardianship of conservative parents. However, beneath this facade of normalcy lies a world of repression, despair, and a profound disconnection from the world around them. The narrative is triggered by the suicide of the youngest, Cecilia, an event that shakes not only the family but the entire community. This tragic act serves as a catalyst, exposing the fractures in the seemingly perfect lives of the Lisbons and their neighbors. Throughout the film, we are confronted with a disturbing question. What drives young girls, with their whole lives ahead of them, to make such a drastic decision? This question forces us to look beyond appearances and question how well we truly know those around us. One of the most intriguing features of The Virgin Suicides is its unique narrative choice. The story is told through the eyes of a group of neighborhood boys, now adults, who were obsessed with the Lisbon sisters. This perspective creates a fascinating distance between the observer and the observed, reminiscent of classic literary works like F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. The narrators, never individually named, function as a collective voice representing the community and its inability to truly understand or help the Lisbon sisters. They observe, theorize, and speculate, but never manage to truly penetrate the girls' inner world. This narrative choice has a powerful effect. On one hand, it creates a sense of mystery and inaccessibility around the Lisbon sisters, elevating them almost to the status of mythical figures. On the other hand, it painfully illustrates how objectification and idealization can blind us to the real suffering of people. Isolation is a central theme in The Virgin Suicides. After Cecilia's suicide, the Lisbon house gradually transforms from a home into a prison. The girls are taken out of school, the windows are covered, and contact with the outside world is severely limited. This physical isolation mirrors the emotional isolation the sisters experience. They are misunderstood by their parents, neighbors, and even the boys who idolize them. The community's inability to truly connect with the Lisbon sisters or offer meaningful help is a powerful commentary on suburban alienation and the failure of social support networks. The film forces us to question, how often do we ignore the signs of suffering in those around us? How can we break down these barriers of isolation in our own communities? The Lisbon sisters live under the crushing weight of social expectations. Their mother, driven by intense religious fervor, imposes strict standards of behavior and dress. The community sees them as symbols of purity and innocence, denying them the opportunity to develop complex individual identities. This theme reminds us of other works that explore the destructive impact of oppressive social expectations, such as Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. In The Virgin Suicides, we see how these expectations stifle the sisters' individuality and contribute to their sense of alienation. The film raises important questions about how gender expectations and social standards can affect the development and mental well-being of young people. As a society, what role do we play in perpetuating these harmful standards? Silence permeates the entire narrative of The Virgin Suicides. The inability to express feelings and concerns is evident not only in the Lisbon family, but throughout the community. The Lisbon parents, especially the mother, seem incapable of addressing their daughter's emotional issues meaningfully. The father, described as more sentimental, never manages to express his feelings adequately. This communication failure creates an emotional vacuum in the house, where the girls' needs and fears go unrecognized and unaddressed. Additionally, the community, represented by the boy narrators and the neighbors, observes the decline of the Lisbon family with a mix of fascination and horror, but never intervenes meaningfully. This collective inaction raises crucial questions about social responsibility and the danger of apathy. The film challenges us to consider: how can we improve communication in our own lives and communities? What is our responsibility when we see others in distress? The Virgin Suicides is rich in symbolism and visual metaphors, which Sofia Coppola skillfully translates from Eugenides' novel to the screen. The Lisbon house serves as a powerful metaphor for its inhabitants' mental and emotional state. At the beginning of the film, the house is presented as a typical suburban home, well-kept and welcoming. However, as the story progresses and the family's isolation increases, the house begins to visibly deteriorate. The lawn, once immaculate, grows uncontrollably. The windows become dusty and covered. An unpleasant odor begins to emanate from the residence. This physical decay mirrors the psychological decline of the family, which seems to be unraveling from the inside out. This use of setting as a reflection of the character's psychological state reminds us of classic literary works like Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, where the physical deterioration of a structure symbolizes the mental disintegration of its inhabitants. Another powerful symbolic element is the tree in the Lisbon yard, from which Cecilia falls in her first suicide attempt. The tree, traditionally a symbol of life and growth, becomes in the Virgin Suicides a symbol of death and decay, reflecting the tragic inversion of the natural order of things in the Lisbon sisters' lives. The girls' personal objects, preserved by the boy narrators as relics, also carry significant symbolic weight. These items, diaries, photos, magazine clippings, represent frustrated attempts to understand the Lisbon sisters, as well as the community's tendency to romanticize and mythologize the girls, even after their deaths. Sofia Coppola's visual style in The Virgin Suicides is crucial to the film's ethereal and melancholic atmosphere. The soft color palette, dominated by pastel tones, evokes a sense of nostalgia and lost innocence. This aesthetic choice starkly contrasts with the film's dark themes, creating a visual tension that mirrors the conflict between appearances and reality in the narrative. The frequent use of diffuse light and scenes filmed at sunset contributes to a dreamlike quality, as if we are seeing the events through a haze of memory. This visual approach reinforces the subjective and possibly unreliable nature of the narration. Coppola also employs slow-motion techniques at key moments, particularly in scenes involving the Lisbon sisters. This stylistic device serves to emphasize the almost mythical nature the girls assume in the eyes of the narrators and the community. The atmospheric soundtrack, composed by the French band Air, perfectly complements the film's visuals. The ethereal and melancholic melodies amplify the sense of loss and nostalgia that permeates the narrative. More than 2 decades after its release, The Virgin Suicides continues to resonate with audiences and influence pop culture. The film addresses themes that remain painfully relevant: teenage depression, social pressure, intergenerational communication failure, and the dark side of the suburban American dream. Coppola's work anticipated many of the discussions that are now at the forefront of public debate on youth mental health. The film invites us to consider how social and family structures can fail to protect the most vulnerable, and how silence and inaction can have tragic consequences. Moreover, The Virgin Suicides continues to influence cinematic and television aesthetics. Its distinctive visual style, which blends nostalgia and melancholy, can be seen echoing in contemporary works exploring adolescence and suburban disillusionment. The film also raises important questions about how society deals with trauma and grief. The Lisbon family's and community's inability to adequately process Cecilia's loss creates a cycle of pain that eventually consumes all the sisters. This exploration of unresolved grief remains relevant in an era when collective and individual trauma is increasingly recognized as a public health issue. The Virgin Suicides is much more than a story about teenage suicide. It is a profound and moving study of the human condition, communication failure, and the danger of collective apathy. Through its unique narrative, rich symbolism, and distinctive visual style, the film invites us to look beyond appearances, question our assumptions about others, and recognize the vital importance of empathy and genuine human connection. The film challenges us to consider: how can we create more empathetic and attentive communities where silent suffering does not go unnoticed? How can we balance the desire to protect young people with the need to allow them to develop their own identities? The Virgin Suicides remains a powerful and provocative work that continues to generate important discussions decades after its release. It is a poignant reminder that often those closest to us may be silently struggling, and our collective inaction can have tragic consequences. And now, I want to hear from you. What aspect of the film resonated with you the most? How do you think this story relates to today's society? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't watched The Virgin Suicides yet, I highly recommend it. It's a film that stays with you long after the credits roll, provoking deep reflections on our shared humanity and the complexities of teenage life. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more in-depth cinematic analyses like this one. Until next time.